Hello, travel biz owner. Welcome to my corner of the travel industry, the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur Podcast. If you're ready to have fun, be inspired, get clarity, and take action in your travel business, then you're in the right place. Let's jump in. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. Rita here. Yes, I've been absent for the past 2 weeks prior. I haven't put out new episodes. And if you've been following me on social media, you probably already know why that is. But let's dig in for a little story time. I'll give you a little bit of a personal update here. Many of you know I've been pretty transparent about my journey with endometriosis and fibroids, and that came to a sudden head about 2 weeks ago, where I was having the most intense pain of my life, followed by other heaviness. I don't want to divulge too much because I don't know what you're doing right now. So much intense pain that I did have to go to the ER a couple of times. Thankfully, my medical and my surgical team kind of really moved swift. I had some scans done, had biopsies done. I also had a medical procedure, so I was under anesthesia to get this procedure done. So I did have to be on rest for a little bit, but pretty much before even the procedure, I was in such intense pain for a couple of hours in the day that the rest of the day would be me recovering from the intense pain and also me being fatigued. So I was pretty much out of commission for 2 weeks, which meant no new podcast got uploaded. No emails got sent out, so I was just really communicating via social media to let everybody know, hey, I'm here, but I'm not here right now. And every person who messaged back to me, either a comment or a message or an email back, all of you just so super gracious and kind to me, that just saying things that I totally agree with myself too, is that health always comes first. And especially not skipping the first week. I felt so terrible because I've been on this regimen. I've been preaching about consistency and all that. And so part of me definitely felt like I was a fraud for not doing the things that I had lived up to. But then there was also that other part of me that was life happens, and I'll get back to what I need to get back to. So here's me coming back to what I need to get back to, being on the podcast. Right now, I am actually prepping for summer camp at sea. It is officially happening this weekend. I have been cleared by my medical team to be able to sail. Right now, it's all about how comfortable I feel, and I mostly feel comfortable. So hopefully you'll be seeing me with my amazing group of travel advisors and travel pros, sailing out the Caribbean, getting all sorts of content, working on marketing efforts, cleaning up some of our back-end systems. So yeah, that will be happening this next week, and I cannot wait. As I do this recovery as well, I will be having a major surgery at the beginning of September. Probably will be giving more details later on. But I, again, got really lucky because I had to wait 6 to 8 weeks between the procedure I had last week versus the September procedure to go back into the hospital. I'll be back under anesthesia. It's more of an intense procedure that will be happening in September. But I cannot wait because the quality of life that I will be having after that procedure and after I've recovered, I am just so stinking excited for, because never would I have ever thought that my reproductive system would combat me in such a way that I would have to cancel plans frequently, have to make plans around that. have to worry about traveling, which is insane because we're in the travel industry and that's like the thing. So I am just so grateful to be on the right track, that I'm supported by my medical team. I'm so grateful for you all again for standing by me, sending me all the prayers, having your family members send up all the prayers for me. I could really still use them these next 2 months because they're going to be a little bit busy. I'll talk about that shortly. And then also just thankful for my family and friends who are constantly checking up on me. I'm extremely grateful for my boyfriend who was with me through everything. I honestly don't know. Like, and I've told him that, I've told my family that, like, if he wasn't around, like, I don't know what would have happened. Like, I don't know how I was supposed to drive myself to doctor's offices and the ER and all that. And then also grateful to my mom, who spent a couple days after my procedure being my mom and making sure that everything was good all there. So yeah, it's been an intense and unexpected summer, especially after I was so gung-ho that, like, yeah, summer, we're gonna get all this work done, and now my body's like, oh, no, you're not. So if you're on my email list, I have mentioned about doing like some action weeks. Reels was supposed to be while I was experiencing all of this, so I've got to rework the schedule. So we might have like 2 action weeks in July and 1 in August, or 1 in July and 2 in August. So I'm retweaking all that now, which also makes me just giving you life update too, that like I have 2 months to prepare for this major medical surgery event. And in these next 2 months, I'm going to be doing all the prep for Wave Week. So I've already started reaching out to some amazing speakers and potential partners for the event. But if you have any awesome suggestions, always feel free to reach out to me. I think I've got like most of my lineup rounded out, but I'm always happy to hear your suggestions. And I am, like, if you submitted a suggestion last year for this year's event, I am taking that into consideration, and I have found a couple of speakers to speak on the top couple of topics that you all have been interested in. But yeah, I will be head down working and making sure all of that's good to go before I go into surgery, because Prep for Wave Week is September 22nd through the 26th. So I will have enough recovery time. My plan is to take the 10 days off. So I'll be in surgery on the 3rd. I'll most likely be coming back to work on the 15th. That'll give me just over 15 days of just recovery time, letting my body do what it needs to do, especially a lot of rest, because I've had a similar procedure done a couple years ago. So yeah, I'll have like 1 week back where I can start like finishing touches, but you'll probably see a lot of pre-recorded, pre-written things coming out in September to just give me time to heal before Prep for Wave Week goes live the week of the 22nd. And yeah, I can't wait. It, like, timing, I don't think could have been more perfect, because I was nervous I was going to have to wait a couple more months. And an opening just presented itself, and I said yes, because I just do not, I don't want what happened this past month to happen to me again, and it shouldn't, based on the procedure that I just had. Word vomiting there, but I know it's been so much time. Have not been able to have a chat with you, so I wanted just to get that off my sleeve there. And then I wanted to hop into our topic, which this week's topic for the podcast, funnily enough, was inspired by, so I am working with a host agency right now, and I am doing marketing masterclasses for their host agency's agents, travel advisors. So just putting it out there, if you would like me to teach your host agency and the advisors at your host agency put me in touch with somebody, and I can go ahead, put like a schedule together. So we've been talking a lot about visibility and marketing, but we were talking about sales funnels today and kind of like building the roadmap to your first or your next sale. And I've done presentations like this before. And like I was making a worksheet for the presentation, and I was realizing I don't really talk. I don't think I've ever really talked about the sales funnel here on the podcast. And so I was like, oh, we got to change that. We've got to talk about this. Like, we've talked about parts of the pieces of this before, I feel, but not like in completion, because I know we talk about the marketing funnel, and like part of that does have to do with the sales funnel. But like when you're talking about putting a sales funnel together, especially as a travel advisor, there's what I feel like some reverse engineering that has to happen so that you can make a plan of action for your business. Because like what I see as the sales funnel is that you are intentionally planning for sales in your business. You're tracking leads, where those leads are coming from, how you're closing people and all that, which there is some crossover with the marketing funnel. But when you're thinking about actually making sales in your business, how are you actually doing that? And I think the first thing that people like, I mean, I remember when I was baby travel advisor quite a few years ago, it was kind of like you just made sales. You didn't really think about it too intentionally. You just went out there to make the sales. But if you are trying to build an intentional, a strategic travel business, you're not going out there just willy-nilly trying to make sales for your business. You have a target. You know where the arrow is supposed to land in order to hit your goal numbers. So if you don't know that, that's really what this episode is for. Or if you're needing a little bit of retargeting, recalibrating, especially like we're in the heart of the summer season, and stick with me because I do have a special announcement at the end for some upcoming episodes. But the first thing, like when I see you structuring out your sales funnel, the first thing that you have to do is definitely you need to know what your numbers are. And when I say know your numbers, you need to know what your expenses are. What expenses does your business have to cover? And I know some people are like, well, I don't know what kinds of expenses. Like, you might know your expenses more maybe if you're just trying to supplement your own income with your travel business's income. Some of you might not know what that number is because a lot of like your personal expenses are covered by your spouse or covered by maybe a previous career that you have. I'm thinking like pension or retirement plans. And so you just started this travel business as like a fun little side thing. And I'm like, cool. But also, I want you to be intentional. I want you to be, a strategic travel entrepreneur. And the way that that's going to get done is that we reverse engineer how we think about sales and not thinking about like, well, I'll just get whatever sales that I want to get. No, you need to know what your business income needs to cover in terms of your personal and professional expenses. From there, we need to figure out what your sales mix needs to be to achieve those numbers. And then you know exactly what you need to be marketing in your marketing channel so that you are not spitting spaghetti at the wall all the time, trying all the which way that way, and nothing's working because you don't have a targeted plan. So again, let's go back to the numbers. We have personal expenses and we have professional expenses. Those are kind of the two buckets. So in your personal life, what are the expenses that your business needs to cover? Me, because I'm a full-time entrepreneur, all my expenses are reliant on that. So that's what I think about. My mortgage, all of my utilities, my cell phone bill, my medical payments, which Yeah, those are going up now. Gas, my car payment, insurance, any savings that I want to do, any investments, IRAs, thinking about retirement and things like that. All of those are personal expenses. Yours are probably going to look a little bit different. I think about here for like, if you're thinking about your kids and going to college, there has to be a savings fund for that. If you have little ones and you're wanting to put them in different like after school programs, sports, dance, art, things like that, those are other expenses that you might need to account for. You might have expenses like hiring like household management type people, like maybe lawn care, or maybe you're having like somebody clean your house, clean your office and things like that. So these are all expenses that you're putting into your personal expenses. And also, if you haven't already downloaded the lead generation calculator, I'll go ahead and link this up, because you might be like writing all this down like on a post-it note or something, but if you use the lead generation calculator, it will do all of the math for you. So you just put in what your numbers need to be for each of these expenses. It will pop out with a yearly income goal for you, factoring in taxes, because you might think you need to make $2,000 every single month, but really you need to make $3,000 every single month to also account for taxes and things like credit card fees and all that. So we have to be smart about that as well. And like, meaning that you're taking $2,000 a month does not mean that you need to sell $2,000 a month. You need to probably sell $20,000 a month to get that $2,000 a month, because again, travel sales don't equate to like commissions, which is what you're actually paid. So all sorts of funness when it comes to numbers in the industry. So we've talked a little bit about those personal expenses. Then we also have those professional expenses. So even if you don't have to take into account any personal expenses, or maybe like your vacation time is the only personal expense that you need to make sure that your business covers, there are going to be just costs, regular costs of operating a business that you need to take into consideration and that your business needs to pay for. I know like maybe in the beginning, your job or your pension or whatever it might be covering a lot of your business expenses, but we need to get out of that mode and into a mode where your business is covering all of that, and that you have a self-sustaining business. And so professional expenses, you know, we've all got some sort of like host, consortia, franchise fee, depending on what your business model is. You've probably also got like all the local regulations. I know in Florida, there's the LLC that you have to redo every single year. There's a business tax receipt that you've got to pay for every year. If you're within city ordinances, there's another payment that you've got to make, but I don't have to do that because I'm outside of city limits and all that. But you might be, so make sure that you're on top of that. Like all those like foundational things that you probably did to start your business, there might be like an annual fee that you have to pay every single year. So just keep in mind all of that as well. I think about like all the technology that you might be paying for, different AIs, CRMs, itinerary builders, commission trackers. Some things are all combined into one now. Some things are all separated. So, yeah. There's going to be lots of technology to help you out specifically for your travel business. And then there's also going to be technology just to help you out as a business owner, like your calendar scheduler, if you're using things like Zoom for discovery calls. I'm trying to think what else. A Canva to make graphics, flyers, and things like that. So yeah, there's that. And then there's like also education. Like, are you a part of an industry organization? Like, are you part of ASTA, CLIA, ACTA, the Travel Institute? Are you going to any conferences? It could be one of those conferences. It could be other independent conferences like Summer Camp at Sea and things like that to get continuing education. Maybe you're paying a business coach. Maybe you're investing in different courses and templates and different things like that. So those are all sorts of business expenses that you need just to have top of mind when we need to figure out how we're going to be covering our booty and how much money we need to be making. How much are all of your expenses that need to be covered? Is this also the time that you start considering, like, do I need to make additional investments? Well, how much more money do I need to make to cover that? Or am I spending too much money? Maybe I need to go a little bit leaner on some other investments. So just thinking about things like that as well. Because once you're able to add up both of those and like figure out like, what does it cost monthly? What does it cost yearly? Then you have your income goal, but this is not the be all end all goal. This is how much you have to make to cover your expenses. But remember, this doesn't figure in taxes. So you do need to figure, I feel like to be safe, like 30%, 35% for taxes. And so this is kind of like what the lead generation calculator helps you do, is factor in, because it will be more money. So you might think you only need to make $4,000 a month or $2,000 a month or $5,000 a month. But really, you need to make $1,000 more or $2,000 more to make sure that your taxes are also covered. So this is why the calculator is super important. Again, it is not foolproof. It gives you like a good roundabout number. Like, definitely work if you are working with like a tax accountant or just a bookkeeping person. They can go over some of those numbers for you, but that I feel is a really good start. Then the second part of the lead generation calculator, it takes you over to the lead generation side. So it's going to tell you how many leads you need to be bringing into your business based on those numbers, but also based on like, what's your commission split with your host or your franchise? What's your closing rate? So on every 10 clients do you always close 5 of them? Do you always close 7 of them out of every 10? So being able to put that percentage point in. What is the average spend of your clients? So do your clients normally spend like $5,000 per trip? Do they spend $10,000 plus per trip? I think I've also accounted in your average professional fee rate. So it does that, and it says, okay, based on these numbers, you need to be having 500 leads because 350 of those leads are going to close into actual clients, because that's going to be 2 different numbers. That's the other thing when it comes to the math, is that we can't, like, leads and clients are 2 different things. They're not the same. So you might have like 20 leads, but only 15 are actually going to be clients of yours, which this is why, like, I love that I've created this calculator, because it just makes everything so much simpler. I think I either created this back in 21 or 22. So just make it easier on you and download the lead generation calculator to get those numbers. But so now you have some numbers that we can work with. We know what your yearly income goal is. We also know the amount of leads that you need to have. Something that also goes on this side as well is being able to identify, what can I do better within my business so that I don't have to work as hard? So if you're only closing 50% of sales, could you invest in some sales training that can get you a little bit closer to 70% of close rate, so you don't need as many leads because you're closing more of your leads? Could it also be that you can sell higher sales-based packages so that, again, you don't have to spend so much time selling smaller packages and you can focus on higher ticket or higher end packages? So those are all the different, you're going to start to be able to see some of the different levers that you can pull within your business that help make things so much easier. Because having the money budget is one thing. There's also time as a resource, which is the second thing, which is sometimes a lot more precious to us because of what we do within our time, or what we at least want to be doing with our time. So we have to think of that as well. So we've got our big numbers out there. Now, how do we make those big numbers happen? that is where our sales mix comes into place. And so you have to play around with these numbers too, because based on what you want your income goal to be, is going to be how many of a certain trip type that you want to sell. So, and I like to always do, like, I always like to talk about land, I always like to talk about cruise, and I always like to talk like about theme parks. So you could probably make the same amount on a basic theme park trip and sell 10 theme park trips, and maybe make the same if you sold like 2 river cruises or something like that. So that's also what you have to have in consideration, but also thinking that you might really hate to sell river cruises. Even though you would love to sell river cruises, you can sell a theme park trip in 10 minutes and get that itinerary in the next 2 hours done and cranked out. Whereas trying to figure out the perfect river cruise itinerary for your client is going to take you 10 hours because you don't have any clue. You don't even know like where the starting point should be because you're not well versed in that. So that's something else to take into consideration when we're talking about your sales mix. What products, how many of those products are you going to sell in order to get to your income goal? And again, I like to kind of like 10x whatever your income goal needs to be, because like roughly, very roughly, for most travel products, you're going to be making 10% commission, especially if you're taking out your split with your host. So like if you sell something that's $10,000, you're most likely going to be making like $1,000 commission, give or take. Like again, this is not the be all end all, and everybody's situation is going to be a little bit different. So thinking about those types of things, like how long does it take for you to plan a certain vacation? Do you like even planning those certain types of vacations? You can start breaking down like, okay, I love doing cruising and I love doing river and suites on mass markets. So those are the things that I have to focus on. So what is your average spend? Is it that you know on every mass market suite sale that you have, you're going to be making $30,000 a sale? Is it for every river cruise booking, you know that you're going to be making $15,000 a sale? So you have to kind of like do some data research also in your CRMs or with your host agency to see like what are the products that you're selling the most of, what's the average revenue that you're getting from there, so that you can base these things off. Because if you can see that your average sale one way or another is $30,000 and you need to have at least one of those sales every single month, well then there you go. We know that you need to have like 30,000 mass market cabin suite sales. You need to do one of those every single month to get to your income goal, or you need to do 2 of those a month to get to your income goal. Whereas the river cruising, based on our like 15,000, you might need to sell 2 of those a month, maybe 2 to 3 a month. So it's a little bit different. Also being able to know like how long is the leeway? Are people planning these types of trips last minute? Are they waiting like a year and a half, 2 years to go ahead and plan these types of trips? So, and I feel like this is like where you can be a little bit fun and creative, because it's not just those, like what are you also doing to upsell? So maybe you don't need as many sales. So maybe like your typical sale is a $30,000 sale, but if you make sure you always close with travel insurance, you always close with a pre and post, you always close by booking all these extra things, you can up by X amount of money, meaning you can reduce 1 trip a year that you have to sell. So instead of selling 12 of these mass market suites, you can sell 11 of these mass market suites. See, you're saving time here. So I hope you can see, I feel like I'm doing like a little science experiment here. I'm dabbing in a little bit there, taking a little bit of this out and all that. Excuse me, to play around with some of these numbers within your business, because this is the beauty, is that it's your business. You get to decide what you get to do. So Are you always making sure that you upsell different tours and excursions? Are you making sure that you upsell different services that you might have to offer? So there's been recently a lot of articles talking about making money in this industry, and especially like if you're just reliant on commission, which if you are, that's not my fave. Don't like that for you. I really wish that you would consider like some sort of like consultation fee, a professional fee, however that you'd like to call that. But really, you also need to value your time. And so if you're not already doing things that help value your time, how are other people supposed to value your time if you're not also going to be doing it the same way? And maybe you justify it in some other ways. Like I know people who do work with high net worth, they're like, I'm already going to be making X amount of commission. Like I don't need to charge a fee. There's different ways to finagle things. There's no be all end all. But I just want to make sure that you are running the business that you want to run, that you're making the money that you want to be making and need to be making. And we're doing this by thinking very thoughtfully and by pulling different levers and by improving your business skills so that you're able to pull different levers as you're needing to. So there, you can like, we're working on our little sales mix here because you've also worked on your numbers. Now you know what you're going to be selling. The next point is moving on to marketing. So if you know you're going to be selling to families and you sell European vacations to families, you're not going to be selling theme park trips to your clients. You're not going to be marketing that type of stuff. Why would you market that stuff if that's not like in the sales mix that you've already predetermined? I think this is also like a good push for really being the expert in something that you want to be the expert in, and hooking up with other travel advisors, like linking up and being referral partners for other travel advisors so that you can refer off work when that needs to be. That's just something that happens in the professional world all the time. You know, like my gynecologist referred me to a gynecological surgeon because the regular doctor is not going to perform surgery. My car accident attorney, if I needed an employment attorney, would refer me to an employment attorney. They're not going to be dealing with anything that's not medical related. So just all professions kind of do this already. I don't know why we haven't like done it too much, but I feel like this is something that's coming to the forefront. Like if you're not an expert in Asia, why are you taking all these courses to be an expert in Asia when there's a travel advisor who can do Asia like the back of their hand? Like, let's rely on other people to like shine where they need to shine, and we can shine where we need to be shining. So, okay, that's a little side rant there, but really like think of your sales mix thoughtfully. So then you know exactly what needs to go in your marketing efforts, and you know what you need to be talking about all the time. Not saying like maybe you do one-off trips that aren't in alignment with your sales mix, but people will now know you for what is the bulk of your sales mix, because those are the things that you're showcasing and talking about in your marketing efforts. So when I think about how we're marketing, I always think of the marketing matrix: meet, connect, convert, and reconnect. And excuse me, actually, I'm not sure if I've like talked too much in depth of that, so we're going to do a little high level. And if you'd like me to do a full episode on the marketing matrix, let me know. Probably should do something like that, because I talk about it all the time, especially in my groups like Marketing Business School and when I'm doing different marketing presentations. But again, there's certain things that I'm like, I don't think the podcast has gotten a taste of. And I feel like I talk a lot about a lot of things here on the podcast. But the marketing matrix, now you can kind of tailor your marketing activities based on the sales mix. So based on what you've already determined are the things that you want to make sure that you're focusing on selling within your business. So when we talk about meet is that high level, the top. And I call it meet because I hate when people say attract, because attract is so freaking passive to me. And I want you to be proactive in your business. I don't want you to wait for stuff to happen in your business. I want you to make stuff happen in your business. And so that's why I talk a lot about networking is here at the top of the funnel. Search engine optimization is here at the top of the marketing matrix. How are you meeting people to get them into your orbit so then you can stay connected with them? And connected, that's where we talk about email marketing. That's where we talk about social media marketing. I feel like those get a lot more talk, but we really need to be talking more about the visibility part, that meet part, the MEET part, because if you don't have that many people that are already in your orbit, you're going to be talking to the same people over and over. You don't have fresh meat, MEAT. You need fresh people to know who you are, know what you do in business so that they can either work with you or refer people off to you. And that's what the top is. So then when we get down to the second part and connect, it's kind of like you're not leaving them out cold after you've just met them. You're giving them a way to stay connected with you. Maybe this is just a coffee chat. Maybe it's a, hey, join my newsletter, follow me on social media. But it's not like they're going to meet you once and then immediately book a trip with you. That might happen, but that's very rare that somebody meets you and then is like, let's do business together. So that's why you've got to keep them in your orbit for a little bit so that they can do that third part, which is converting to a paid client. And people do this in a couple different ways. Like, have you had a discovery call with them? Have they agreed to work with you? Well, then you need to start sending out your invoice and agreement. That's part of the conversion area. Maybe you're hosting a presentation, you're sending them off to a sales page. That could be your conversion tactic. So there's a couple different ways that you can do this, but how essentially are you getting people to pay you and agree to your terms so that you can start working on their behalf for the trip that they're looking forward to planning? And then the last part is, I don't want, unless they've been a bad client and you don't want to work with this client again, you can't just stop the relationship there too, like, thanks for doing business with you. We've got to do reconnecting, and that's the fourth part of the marketing matrix. So what are you doing to reconnect with people? And some of that will be similar as connect. It will be through email marketing and it will be through social media. But this is the part where I like to up the ante a little bit and do things that, definitely big box stores aren't doing, but there's a lot of small business owners that aren't doing simple things like just doing check-in phone calls. I'm a huge fan of direct mail, and I'm actually trying out a different service for direct mail. So yeah, what can you do to just show up, stand out? And I love the whole concept of sending birthday cards, holiday cards. I used to send out cruise of the month cards where I would give people different ideas of different cruises, what they could do, starting like baseline rates, and I would add a QR code if they wanted to like submit an inquiry there or like do a discovery call or things like that. So being creative in those ways to, one, just show people like, hey, yeah, I'm here in business, and two, I'm thinking about you, and three, I would still love to really do business with you again in the future. And all of that is done, like, if you're unsure of kind of like what you should be putting out there in your marketing efforts, all of this is made so much more easier once you figured out what your sales mix is, because you know what will go in your marketing channels and you know what won't go in your marketing channels. Like when I was advertising more heavily my travel agency, I specialized in reaching out to like team leaders, like corporate team leaders and business owners who are wanting to run retreats in a very unique way. I would never put anything about romance. I would never put anything about families, because that does not align with retreats on cruise ships. That just did not align with my brand. So you also have to be the same thing. Like, oh, if I look at some of your all's social media accounts, if I see another deal or offer or promo on your social media first, no, let's stop doing that. Second, if I see like so much mishmash of like you plan every type of vacation there is, friend, please let's hone in on this. Please pick. I know it's hard to kind of like put yourself in a little bit of a bubble, but you know what? You also get to change. So let's say that you wanted to put yourself in the theme park bubble and you're like, I thought I was gonna like this. I don't like it. You get to change. You can restart. You can experiment. You can do new things. But it is so much easier if you know exactly the thing that you sell or the items that you sell or who exactly you sell to, because you're going to know exactly where you are going to find them. Like, you're going to know when different marketing opportunities come your way, you can be like, that's exactly what I need to be doing, or that's not exactly what I need to be doing. So it just gives you so much more clarity when you put those blinders on. I always think, I'm an Orlando native. SeaWorld used to be owned by Anheuser-Busch. They used to have the Clydesdale horses at the SeaWorld theme parks, and they would, I'm not sure if walk's the right word, but you would see them like walking around or trotting around, galloping around the parks. But you know what was also synonymous with the Clydesdale horses is that they would put blinders on them so that they would only focus on moving forward and staying in formation and not veering from the pathway that they had already set for them. This is what I'm trying to help you do, is put those blinders on. So this has been like really high level overview. We can kind of get into the nitty gritty of the sales funnel and different ways that you can like craft your own sales funnel, like using webinars or using PDFs or landing pages and things like that. But I at least wanted to give you like what I see as the three big parts, especially when we're reverse engineering things, is figuring out those numbers, those expenses, figuring out what your sales mix, and then also figuring out like what are those activities you want to be doing in your marketing matrix. So my special announcement for this week is, make sure, if you're not already subscribed to the podcast, highly recommend that you do so, because we have a very delayed start to our summer selling series, and that is coming. The first episode is coming to you next week. So I will be interviewing different experts throughout the month of July. I definitely have 4 scheduled. I might have up to 6 scheduled. Last year we did 6. So I'm trying to give myself grace also with everything that's gone on. I'm fine if we just do 4 this year, especially with a late start. But we will have guest speakers coming on to help talk through different destinations or experiences and how you can sell more of those within your travel business. So we're going to kick off with Switzerland, and then in no particular order, because I'm not really sure like how we're going to go. We're going to go at some point we're going to Asia one week. We're going to be talking about ocean cruising one week, and then we're going to also be talking about Spain and Portugal, or one of the other weeks. So again, just bear with me as I'm having to like recalibrate myself and how I'm scheduling everything. But we will start next week with Switzerland, and I cannot wait for you to hear how Switzerland kind of differentiates itself from some of the other more well-known European countries and destinations, and what your clients can really look forward to. But that is the episode from me today. Welcome back to me. I'm so happy to be back and recording, and glad to be here and giving back to you all. So thanks for being here. Thanks for sticking with me. Hopefully we'll just have everything pre-recorded from now on so we don't miss a beat. But if something happens, and you'll be hearing from me soon. But stay tuned to social media for any updates. And I will see you next week, everybody. Have a good one. Thanks for joining me on the podcast today. Remember to check out the show notes for all relevant links and resources from today's show. See you next time.